we are gonna do some fun exercises tonight, and we're also gonna learn some WebSockets. So we're gonna learn some WebSocket, some Socket.io. In general, what the heck is WebSockets and why would we prefer it? So we're gonna learn some tonight. So I hope all Saturday has been going well for you guys. Can you see? Okay, cool. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start out doing some exercism just to get our mind and muscles working a little bit there. So typically I do start out with like algorithms, but today's a little different. So yeah, okay. So Python represents true and false values with the bool type, which is a subtype of int. I never knew that. Boolean is a subtype of int. There are only two values in this type, true and false. So these values can be bound to a variable. As you can see, the values of true is bounded to a true variable. A false value is bounded to the false variable. So we can evaluate Boolean expression using the and, or, and not operators. If it's true and true, then it's going to be true. If it's true and false, that means it's going to become a false variable. So in this exercise, you need to implement some rules from Pac-Man. So you need to implement some rules from Pac-Man, the classic 1980s era arcade game. So you have 4 rules to go ahead and implement, all related to the game states. Do not worry about how the arguments are derived, just focus on combining the arguments to return the intended result. Do not worry about how the arguments are derived, so these arguments, just focus on combining the arguments to return the intended result. Okay, let's see here. So we define if Pac-Man eats a ghost. Can you see? Do I need to move myself? Okay, so defined if, so in the function right here, eat ghost, it takes in 2 parameters. If the Pac-Man has a powered palette active, and if the Pac-Man is touching a ghost, then return a value. Return a Boolean value if Pac-Man is able to eat a ghost. The function should return true only if Pac-Man has a power palette active and is touching a ghost. So, let's see. So as you can see in this example right here, we need this to be both be true and true, and that will return true. But if any of them are false, we will go ahead and return a false. So here, due to the indentation, what we can do is say return power palette active, palette active. So power palette active is going to be, they're both going to be Boolean value. And is touching. So in order to be true, it needs to both be and touching ghost. Because as you can see from this one up here, if it's true and true, it will return true. Otherwise, if it's true and false, it will return false. So we're going to leave this one as is. Hi Ghibli. How are you? How's your Saturday? Should I say, how's your Labor Day going? Let's see if this one is working just for the first result. I wonder if I could just test the first result. Okay, perfect. So we know that the first one is working, so we can go on to the second one. So I always like to test mine early and make sure that we run tests in between, because we don't want to get too far and not be able to fix it later on. Okay, let's see. I am blocking you, I feel like. What if I move myself here? A little bit better. So you can see like a little bit of both. So, oops. Okay, so we're going to define the score function. So we're going to define the score function. It's going to go ahead and take in 2 parameters. If Pac-Man is touching a dot and it is touching a power palette, then we're going to return a Boolean value if Pac-Man scored. So the function should return true if Pac-Man is touching a power palette or a dot. what I meant to say is, I see that you're working on your app and been updating some of your old apps, I believe. I think when I followed you on Blue Sky, you were working on a chicken coop, I think. Are you still working on it? Okay, so like we did for the first function above, we're gonna say touching power palette if it's equal to a touching dot. I was thinking we can do a ternary, but then if you already say that, hey, if this does this equal this, then this one will go ahead and return a true or false. And let's go ahead and run our test as well. Oh, that won't work, huh? The function returned true, but the test expected the player does not score. Okay, so that's my fault by saying if they are equal to each other. Okay, test 4 does work. No score when nothing eating. Score when eating. False is not true. Called score. The function returned false. But the test expected that the player scores because they are touching a dot. I saw that. Yes, I love what you've been working on too, by the way. Sorry, what I meant to say is I think you were like manually building something outside for your chickens. I can't remember based on Blue Sky, but let me look. I think you were building a farm. Oh, it was actually an app. Will you be releasing it later at all? Okay, so we're gonna return a Boolean value if the backman scored. Is touching a power palette, and the function should return true is touching a power palette or a dot. Okay. Return true if power palette or return. Okay, so this is saying that you're gonna return true if it's a touching power palette, or true if you're touching a dot. Else, false. I don't think that's how you would write it. Return true if, or touching that, else false. Okay. That's funny, I thought oh, I see. No, I thought you were building a real Casio. Okay, so we'll do 3. So 3 says that we're going to define the lose function that takes 2 parameters if the Pac-Man has a power palette active and if Pac-Man is touching a ghost, we're going to return a Boolean value. The function should return true if Pac-Man is touching a ghost and does not have a power palette. Too funny. Okay, so let's write this out. So if Pac-Man, in order to lose, Pac-Man has a power palette, and if a ghost is touching him. Then we're gonna return true, you lose. Else it will return false. So when are you gonna go on live next? I need to, yeah, and what are you currently working on? I would love to stop in on one of your lives, so let me know too as well. Perfect time for you to go live as well. Yeah. Okay, so this one we're gonna say return true. And we're gonna say return power palette active and touching ghost. If it's true and true, it will return true. If one of them is false, we will receive false. So this one should work past test 3. Don't lose if a touching goes with the palette. So you call true true, yes, it returns true. But the test expects that the player does not lose when they touch a ghost. Ah, I see. Okay, so what you're gonna do, return true if power palette active and touching ghost. Else false. So this is essentially writing a ternary. Oh, can you see that? Maybe, oops. Let me move myself here. Sorry, I don't think I know who Aaron is. You're too silly. Hey, you know what? Right now, if you look outside your window, I think the stars are all aligned. Can you see that? I see that. I see all the stars are aligned right now. The time is now. Yeah, because like I feel like whenever I go on live, I just show anything and everything that I'm currently working on or doing. So, yeah. And I'm always excited to see what other people are building too, and just what you're thinking, what you're going through, your thought process. This is my fault. Okay, sorry, let me pay attention again. So we're going to define the lose function. If Pac-Man has a power palette, yes. And if the Pac-Man is touching him equals true, then we're going to return the Boolean value if Pac-Man loses, which will be true. The function should return true if Pac-Man is touching a ghost. Oh, okay. The stars are all aligned. I see. Let me know. I will have to stop by in one of those streams. So, yeah. The stars are aligned. I see it. Okay, so if the Pac-Man is touching ghosts and does not have yes, let me know. I'll be your first one. So tonight's the night. Any other plans for tonight? I think I heard all the stars are aligning tonight. So let me know. So return true if not. If it does not have a power palette active and it's touching the ghost. Else, we're just going to return false. Okay, 3 is good. Woo. Okay. I will pay attention to number 4. May I ask what your tech stack is? Yes, I'm interested in what your tech stack is, Ghibli Magic. So we're going to define the win function that takes in 3 parameters. If Pac-Man ate all the dots, if Pac-Man has a power palette active, and if Pac-Man is touching ghosts. Return a Boolean value if Pac-Man wins. The function should return true if Pac-Man has eaten all the dots and has not lost based on the parameters defined in part 3. So essentially, we're going to say return lose based on the power palette active and the touching ghost. So we're going to go ahead and reuse this function here because this is going to say that it's based on the parameters in part 3. So we're going to say, hey, did you lose already? We're going to check if it lost already. I like MongoDB and AppWrite for that. I really want to get into, those are like great tech stack. Have you thought of getting into PostgreSQL? Yeah, the only reason why I want to get into that is to get more familiar with the SQL databases. Because, yeah, it's good to work with NoSQL databases. AppWrite, I can't remember if they are a SQL database, but I think they're NoSQL, I think. But, yeah, have you thought about it as well? Let's see. Okay, so we're going to use it from part 3. So we're going to say return oh my goodness, yes. So that's why I kind of didn't want to get into Postgres, but I definitely want to get into more. I definitely want to try to play around it with it more. But we'll see how it goes. So I'll update you. Return true if has eaten all dots is true and this is true, else false. I think I can do this. So if this is true, the person has ate all the dots. This one's gonna return a true or false already. Then this one should return me a true or false value. So this should be valid. Oh no, okay. Maybe that's why I was like confused with AppWrite a little bit there. I see it's actually relational. Me too. Me too. I feel you on that, Janet. So yes, Ghibli Magic, I feel you on that. I have been trying to do it more, but it comes and goes. So yeah. Well, I'll have to reach out to you and I'll have to talk to you about like any like networking things you've done or strategies or techniques or stuff that you're currently doing. I'd love to know as well and just like throw ideas at each other and stuff like that. I feel like it should be easier. But yeah. Okay, let's see where I did it wrong. Don't win if all the dots in but touching a ghost. Your true is not false. You call true false true. The function return true, but the test expected that the player does not win because the player was touching a ghost. That means return true. That means right here, this should return. So this one right here, it was touching a ghost. Based on this test right here, I failed at this part because it's saying that the function returned true. So this was true, false, true, and then but the test expected that the player does not win because the player was touching a ghost. This one should have been a false then. Can I print here? I don't know if I can print here. We're gonna find out if we can print, because this one should return. I feel the same way. I feel the same way, Ghibli Magic. So this one did return true. So this was true. Oh, thank you. I know. But, yeah. Well, I'll definitely have to talk to you more about it. So, yeah. Any other plans for Labor Day weekend? Are you doing anything fun? I was thinking about going out to the beaches, but I think everybody else was going out to the beach too. So I'm not sure. Yeah. One time we went out to the beach during what was it, July 4th. We went out to like a beach out in Malibu, Matador. Have you been to Matador? But we went out there and it was packed. But you know who else was out there? The parking ticket people. They were giving out parking tickets left and right to the cars, and I was like, God, I can't do that. So that's why I try to stray away from beaches during the holidays. Okay, so your power palette is thing and your ghost is here. Okay, so it is doing what I expected. That's a cute name. How'd you come up with the name Amber? Yeah, it was crazy. So I was like, I don't think I'll go out to the beach for a while, especially on holidays. Okay, so this is true and this is true. So they did lose. Okay, so what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna say, hey, you're gonna say if you already lost, then we're just gonna return false. If return false, if this is true, the else we're gonna say return true, because then otherwise, hey, we know that you're gonna lose if this is already true, because we're not going to evaluate if you are a winner. Do it all. Return true, but the test expected that the player does not win. Oh, that, okay, well, else. Okay, so we're going to define the function that takes in 3 parameters. The function should return true if Pac-Man has eaten all the dots and has not lost space. But we're going to return false if this is true, else. Return false if this is true, like you already lost. Like we know that from this function right here, you already lost. But is there a return false? Oh. Oh. That is cute. That is such a cute, or like that's such a cute story about that. Oh. You know what? I have to definitely reach out to you sometimes, Ghibli Magic, because I'm like, I don't think I know what you did before switching. So, yeah. And I'm like, did it? And it's so crazy now that I think about render. I was like, I don't think I saw you that often. I think I saw you here and there, but I started seeing you more towards the end. But I saw you here and there. Yeah, I felt like with render, I saw people like here and there, and that was it. we're gonna return false if, okay, so I think about it, I'm gonna say, hey, if the edge case of lose of the power palette active and touching goes, if this is true, we're gonna return false immediately. We're not gonna worry about it. It's gonna be an edge case. Yeah, I was. Someone reached out to me on LinkedIn. They're like, "Oh, I only saw you for a split second. We got introduced." I'm like, "We did?" I was like, because he's like, "Yeah, got introduced, and then all of a sudden, like, we both went our own separate ways." And I'm like, "Oh man." I was like, now I slightly kind of remember it when he said it. He said that. So, yeah, render was all like everything happened pretty fast. So, in a good way, of course. Agree. I get the curse of the internet. I feel the same way. Are you a big Marvel person at all? Ghibli Magic? Are you big into Marvels? Okay. It has eaten all dots. Oops. Eaten all dots. And now we're going to say that if you have ate all of the dots and not lose power palette and touch and goes. So we know that this is the opposite. Then we're going to say return true. If you already lost, we're just going to say, hey, return false. If has eaten all the dots, we have to make sure that you did eat all your dots and you didn't lose. Then we're going to go ahead and return true. Okay, let's see. None is not false. Called when true. The function return none, but the test expected that did power palette active, touching goes, power palette active, touching goes. Have you been to CYC before? Have you been there last year? I think I was talking with Shan, and she said that she was there last year, and she had a good time too, though. So, and Richard too, of course, and he said he had a good time too there, of course. Really? Oh my goodness! I will have to read comics of Hawkeye. The character himself in his movies himself, I never felt like it was such a, he was like that humorous. So I'll have to read the comics itself then. Yeah, okay, so I'm still like a maybe. So I saw what you wrote and I'm tempted. So I might reach out to you. Yeah, so I'll let you know. False, true. If has eaten all dots and or yeah, no, I like watching their movies because I like the storytelling aspects of it because we were watching Fantastic Four and I was like, I really like it. I didn't think I was going to like it, but they converted me over. I don't think it's on this one. Okay, my none. So we're gonna say if the lose of the power palette active, yep, touching goes. If this is true, we're gonna return false. Okay, so I'm gonna say we're gonna return false if lose power palette active and touching goes, because that's what's being passed here, so I can do that. Else oh, I'm so sad. they tossed out his character. I will have to watch it, the comics then. I'll have to pull out a comic and read it then. What kind of pizza? Pineapple pizza? Because you know we're all a big fan of pineapple pizza here. Okay. That's interesting. Okay, because I print lose power palette active touching goes. This is shouldn't have return. Yeah. Okay, so this see here it is true. So that's why I was like I should just be able to say if this if this is true, then you can just return false because you didn't win. Is what I'm saying to it. Is it my indentation? They said that I have none. Yup, it's gotta be pineapple pizza. Let's see. So we're going to say assertion error none is not false. The function returned none, but the text effector does not win because the winner player did not eat. Okay, so that tells me the way I'm writing it right now is not valid. I was going to say, hey, we're going to just calculate the lose, just knock it out the part, but we can add it all together. Return. Okay, so what I'm going to do, we would say return true if ate all the dots and did not lose, else we know that it's false. So we say return has eaten all dots. Eaten all dots, so we know that that's, if we're going to say, hey, if that's true and did not lose, it's right. If I like your instructions, not false, and did not lose, this should say, because this is saying that, hey, this is true, you did lose if no power palette active and a code did touch you, else we're going to say false. So this one should say if it's false, not false, and not false. So this would be true. Oh, I will. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, let me copy that. Good to remember. I am going to have to check it out. So thank you for that. So that I can remember for later. So, yeah. True is not false. Called. Okay. So has in all the dots. Okay, let's pretend that this is true. Based off here, it says you are true and you are false and you're true. Because that's interesting because I'm saying, hey, I'm gonna call this. Okay, so this is true. Let's play with this example. So this one is saying, hey, you are true, and I'm gonna call the lose function to calculate this for me because I don't want to rewrite out the whole function all over again. So here we know that the power palette is false. We're passing in true. So we know that you should be true. So you should be true because you touch a ghost. So I want to say and not. Because the reason why I went with not is because you want to say and not true. So this will be true and this will be not true, which is actually a false variable stated here. And that's how we get to false. Like, hey, you didn't win. So sorry. So, but yeah. Okay, we're gonna grab this. We're gonna look for my thing. Can you guys believe it's gonna be September? That's so crazy. Gonna come in dash M, add it in, I'll go. Add it in, lose, push. Okay, we're gonna run the test. We're gonna go ahead submit. Recommended. The if expression can be replaced with a bool test instead. Okay, line 23 and 23 and 36, 23 and 36, 23 and 36. So you wanted me to say boo boo this. 23 and 36. But I'm gonna run tests. Like Scooby-Doo? Is that what you mean, Ghibli Magic? If the error for line 23, okay, so that's what essentially it's saying. Hey, we're just doing the bool test like that. Boolean of whatever not and. Can you believe that September is going to be here? It's like right next around the corner. Okay, this time there's no immediate feedback. I know that the first time that we were working on it, it did ask for some certain feedback, but now it's like doing its thing. So we are working. Oh, I see. My mind read it as Scooby-Doo. I'm so sorry. Okay, mark it as complete. Okay, no thanks. Okay, we're gonna return back. We'll come back and do some more. Maybe we'll do some more another day. Discover more exercises. All exercises. Yeah, I think they have this overview right here that's pretty cool. So we'll come back and do some more. And baby works in project. So baby work in progress. So yeah, so only 138 more to go. So yeah, but I definitely wanted to go ahead and work. Yeah, no, I'm so sorry. I was thinking about Scooby-Doo for some reason. Yeah, I definitely want to do some work with like WebSocket or learn a little bit about WebSocket. Oh, that is interesting. I think I was looking for a WebSocket, but I got no JS.
Alright then, gang, so
I actually really like NetNinja, so they are a really good one to go ahead and use. I thought they have a WebSocket one. NetNinja WebSocket.
it was good.
They are. Can you believe that it's September already? It's crazy. September's already here, so that's crazy. Agree. I really like your mindset to everything, Ghibli Magic. So I have to talk to you. I'll have to talk to you. I'll find a time this weekend. I would love to. So Oh yeah, sorry, Ghibli Magic. I will have to coordinate a time to talk with you. I don't think I ever got to know like your story and more about you. I think you come from an interesting background, and so I didn't know you lived so close to me too. So yeah, I'll have to talk to you. I'll have to set up a time. Yes, yes. Cause yeah, I you need to tell me all your stories. So tell me everything. I want to know everything. So yeah. So yeah, now I'm just gonna listen to some YouTube. I just want to get some understanding of what WebSockets are. I hope to build a project by the end of the WebSockets, just to like get an understanding of the super surface level. Because I was told that you can go ahead and just build surface level. Yes, please do. Okay, I will go to it shortly here, and I will go ahead and set up a time with you. So, yeah. Any other plans for tonight? Did you make dinner already, or any plans for dinner?
Good on gang, and welcome to your very first WebSockets tutorial. Alright, so what are WebSockets? Well, basically they're a way to communicate between a client, the browser, and a server. And this communication
Tell me all your secrets. I want to know everything.
is bidirectional, and that basically means that data can flow in both ways. So it can flow from the client to the server.
Oh, thank you. I was like, yeah, I also want to try to get into more of system design. I think that would be helpful to know. Definitely a lot more to learn. But yeah, I definitely want to get into some system design as well. Have you started studying any system design?
And also from the server to the client. Now, because these WebSockets are always open, that allows for real-time data flow in our application. So this is all really cool, but what does it mean in a real-world example? Well, I want you to imagine we have this kind of chat application which is hosted on this server right here. So all these different clients right under here are different people around the world in their browser, and they all go to whatever.com to request this chat application in their browser. So now they're all viewing it in their browser. Now, say one person, John over here, he types something into this chat and clicks send, then that message is going to instantaneously be updated in.
Yeah, I ate some already too. I ate some, let's see, dill pickle chips. I really like dill pickles. I think dill pickles add such a good flavor to chips. Are you a big fan of dill pickles? I know that it's very pungy. It has a strong smell, so I know some people are not a big fan of that flavor. So, yeah, and I also ate some chicken shrimp with some spinach. Try making like a pad thai sauce, but we're working on it. We're working on it. I love that, though. Yes, dill pickle chips lover. I love that. Yes. I agree. I love like trying to understand how other people are setting up their file structure within Next.js. I think there are like static and dynamic routes, but I'm also like, just curious about how like their testing folders and all that stuff is set up too and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, I try to, so yeah. Yours sounds pretty healthy too, so yeah.
All of these different clients around the world that are viewing that chat as well. That's how chats work, right? So this is WebSockets in action. But what's going on? Well, when we first request the chat application, okay, in the browser, we get that chat application back, but also at the same time what we're doing is we're opening up this WebSocket between the client and the server. So now we have all of these different clients, all of these different browsers around the world, which all have their own WebSocket connection to the server, right? And that means that data can flow back and forth between it in real time because these are always open.
Yes, thank you for coming to hang out. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. I will follow up with you and book a time. So let's get seeing you. Have a good one.
These WebSockets. So now when John actually creates a message and clicks send, what we're doing is sending that message down this WebSocket to the server. The server receives it and then says, hey, this is a chat message. I know what to do with that. I'm going to send it down all these other WebSockets which are connecting to these clients down here to each individual client so that they can see that updated message in their chat. Okay, so the message is getting sent up the WebSocket to the server, then the server sends it down each individual WebSocket to all the remaining clients, and that's why they see this message, okay, instantaneously. So I want you to take note here. This data transfer is occurring in real time, and we're not using any kind of AJAX request from each of these different clients to request any new data from the server. It's all happening without the client having to make any additional requests at all. So this stuff is really cool, and there's tons of different uses for WebSockets, not just chat rooms, and they include making multiplayer browser games, collaborative code editing software, some kind of live text for sports or news websites, online drawing canvases, real-time to-do apps, etc., etc. There's tons of different uses for WebSockets. Now in this tutorial we are going to make a simple chat application that looks something like this. So we have it open in two different browsers here, we're connecting to the same server in both instances, and I want you to imagine that instead of these two browsers on my computer, this is two different computers in two different parts of the world because it works exactly the same way. So they're both connecting to this server and they're getting this chat application back in their window, which is some kind of Mario chat. Now, if you've watched enough of my videos, you know I'm a fan of Mario. This is a recurring theme, but anyway. In this chat window, we have an input for a handle, so that's your name. So I'll just say Luigi, and I'll do the other one as well. Say Peach, okay? And we also have an input for the message, so I can type a chat here. So I'll say, hey Peach. And notice this, when I'm typing here, I'm getting this Luigi is typing a message over in the other client. So this is WebSockets in action. Pretty cool, right? And also when I click send, then we get the updated message right here to say Luigi has said hey Peach, and also over here. So we're using WebSockets to send that data to the server then sends it down to this client and shows it in real time, and we've not made any kind of request from this client to the server at all. It's just open and listening through this WebSocket and receiving data. Likewise, if I type some kind of message in this one, hey Luigi, then we also see this Peach is typing a message over here, and click send. Same happens, we get the message over here using WebSockets as well as over here, instantaneously, really quick, in real time. Okay, so that's what we're going to create in this set of tutorials. Now I want to show you a couple of tools I am going to be using. The first one is Atom, a text editor, completely free and completely cool, so you can download that at atom.io. Also, I'm going to be using CMD or Commander, don't know how to pronounce it, for my command line tool. Again, that is really free, that is really cool, and it's free as well. And now, before you start this series, you are going to need Node.js installed as well, so you can head to nodejs.org step. If you've got it installed, it's installed series. They can get down below one. And if you do like these videos, please see. Hey, what's up, guys?
So essentially, from watching part 1, I'm just going to summarize what I understood from that. So essentially what WebSockets are at the end of the day is providing you real-time updates. So without having to always constantly refresh, the network understands like, hey, I'm always going to like give you the newest update without you having to make any certain request. I got you, and I'll always keep updating for you. So that's what I'm understanding with WebSockets. Let me know if you have a different understanding than I do, chat. So let me know. But that's what I'm definitely understanding, is that WebSockets doesn't work for you, does the heavy work for you. You as a user don't have to worry about that. So that's why it's good for games. It's good for multi people game. I forgot the word, but it's good for multi people game, and also it's really good for like chats. It's also really good for like sports and all that stuff. So these WebSockets are really good for that.
Guys, welcome to your second WebSockets tutorial, and in this video we're going to create a very simple Express app on Node to use WebSockets with later on. Then we're going to need some kind of servers. If we're going to now create Express for Express application. Okay, so you'll notice first of all I've already opened Atom and I've got this folder right here is in this playlist and then for us WebSockets playlist and the license and also do so okay cool Express install. So we don't change it to the server, okay? .js, call host, then the port number in our browser so we can use it later.
Later, I do want to make my own like lifetime chat, but then the thing is that I don't mind. When was the last time they did this? So it was 8 years ago, so a lot of these things, I think like you can go ahead and just do everything in Node.js. So I don't think I need to go ahead and download anything in Atom, but will go ahead and make one myself at the end. I'll be right back. I just need to grab some water quick.
Later on, when we start working with socket.io, it's going to make things easier for us. So I'm going to store this in a variable, set it equal to app, and then .listen to listen to a specific port number. Right? So when we go to local. It's going to listen to requests on this port number. So you can type in whatever port number you want in here, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to type in 4000 and we're going to listen to this port number, okay? So when it starts listening to this port number, we can fire back a callback function just to let us know that it's listening for requests on this port number, okay? So let's say console.log, and we'll say something like listening to requests on port 4000. Alright, cool. So now if we save that, if we run this now, I'm going to open up this by typing node1 index. It's going to take a minute to kick it, then run it, and now we can see listening to requests on port 4000. Just missed out now, so let me add that in. This is a good example of Node1. I'm going to save this now. Node1 is automatically going to kind of restart, and you can see restarting due to changes, starting node index, index.js, this file right here, and now we see that updated message, okay? So now we've set up this application, but if we go to it in a browser, then nothing much is going to happen in a minute. I'm going to localhost 4000, which is what it's listening for, but it says can't get /. So we actually want to serve something to the browser, right? So to do that, what we're going to do is use some middleware to serve some public or static files, if you like. So what I need to do that is come down here, do a little comment saying static files, and then we'll say app.use, and we're going to say express.static, so this is part of Express, and then we're going to specify a folder to serve, alright, and it's going to be the public folder. So I'll explain this in a minute. First of all, we're going to create this folder called public, right, and then inside I'm going to create one, and I'll say, woo!
Yeah, I am going to go ahead and just skip a little bit on the static files.
You see me. Alright, cool. So now if I save this, if I go
Essentially, he's
to
making like the
$4000, localhost
client
$4000,
side.
then I'm going to get served this index.html file. It looks for this automatically, okay? So if I type refresh, now you can see, woo, you see me, okay? It's serving up that index file. So this is the same as going to / index.html. It's just serving up that automatically, okay? So now we have our Express app serving this index.html file to the browser. I want to do one more thing, and that is just add in a CSS file as well in the public folder. So we'll go to new file, and we're going to call this styles.css. Now I'm going to put some styles in here, which is just going to make our chat application as we go forward look better in the browser. Now since this is not a CSS tutorial series, I'm just going to copy and paste this from the GitHub repo. So just go to this repo, remember the link is down below, go to lesson 2, because we're on lesson 2, then go to the public folder, then styles.css, and you just want to copy all of this stuff right here. So I'm going to copy all that. Then I'm just going to paste this in the styles.css file and save it, okay? The next thing we need to do is just link it up in this index file. So I'll do a little link tag here. Link href is equal to /styles.css. Remember, it's in the public folder, so it's going to serve that. Go to / then whatever the name of the file is.
Okay, we're going to go ahead. It seemed like he was still setting up the client side, but now we're going to go ahead and implement it. I believe.
Hey guys, and welcome to your third WebSockets tutorial. And in this video, we're going to start using socket.io to work with WebSockets. And we created a server on Node.js. So that's this thing right here. Then what we did is we served up some public files, and one of those public files was the index.html file, and we served that up to the browser when we requested it, okay? So we've got all this running now. Now what we want to do is start working with WebSockets. Okay, so just going back to this diagram, in the last tutorial we created our Express app and we created a server on Node.js. So that's this thing right here. Then what we did is we served up some public files, and one of those public files was the index.html file, and we served that up to the browser when we requested it, okay? So we've got all this running now. Now what we want to do is start working with WebSockets, and we're going to use a library called socket.io to do that. It makes it really easy for us. So we're going to use socket.io by installing it in both the back end on the server side and on the front end, okay? So now when we request this index.html file, socket.io is going to be set up in there, and also in the index.js file, socket.io is going to be set up in there as well. So what we can do then, because we've got it set up on both sides, is use it on both sides, and we can establish this socket connection between the two, okay? And pass data along them. So that's what we're going to do, set up in both the back end and the .io we requested it, okay? So we've got all this running now. Now what we want to do is start working with WebSockets, and we're going to use a library called socket.io to do that. It makes it really easy for us. So we're going to use socket.io by installing it in both the back end on the server side and on the front end, okay? So now when we request this index.html file, socket.io is going to be set up in there, and also in the index.js file, socket.io is going to be set up in there as well. So what we can do then, because we've got it set up on both sides, is use it on both sides, and we can establish this socket connection between the two, okay? And pass data along them. So that's what we're going to do in this tutorial. Okay then, so I'm back at index.js, which is running on the server, and the first thing I want to do is install socket.io on the server side. So to do that, I'm going to open up this command line tool and say npm install socket.io, and not UIO, and I'm going to install this and save it to the dependencies, okay? Okay, cool, so once that's installed, we can then use it on the server side. So in this index.js file, I'm going to require it. I say var, I'm going to store this in a variable called socket and set it equal to require, and we're requiring socket.io, okay? So now we can use it in this file. Now, how do we actually set up this socket.io? Well, all we need to do is come down here, and I'm going to create a little comment called socket setup. and we can say var io, this is a variable, I'm going to set it equal to what we just required here, socket, and this thing that we required is a function, so we're just going to invoke this function, okay? And this function takes a parameter, and that parameter is what server we want to work with. Now remember in the last tutorial, we set up this express tab, and we created this server, and we stored it in a variable. Stored it in a variable so we can take it and pass it into this socket function. So we're now saying we want socket.io to work on this server, okay? So now that is going to save it for us on the back end. So the way that this works is that socket.io is going to sit around now on the server waiting for some kind of client or browser to make a connection and set up a WebSocket between the two. Right? So what we can do is we can list out for when that connection is made. So to do that, we can take this variable which is created IO and we can say .on connection. So this is going to list out for an event called connection, right? And that event is when the two connect when we make a connection from a browser. So then when we make this connection, we can pass in a callback function which fires. So once this connection has been made, this thing fires right here. And inside here we could just for now console.log a message. So I'll say console.log and we'll say something like made socket connection, right? And inside this callback function right here, we can pass a variable, which is going to refer to that instance of the socket which is made, right? That one particular socket. So say we've got 10 different clients all making a connection, each one is going to have their own socket between that client and the server, right? So when one particular client connects, we're going to listen out for this connection method, it's going to connect to the server, we're going to fire this callback function, which then passes through this socket, which refers to the socket between the client making the connection and the server. Makes sense? And we can do stuff with this socket object later on. So for now, let's just save it. And if I go to the same web address right here, at the minute, nothing is going to happen. You can see it in the console. In fact, I need to say node mod index first of all, actually run this file. Okay, now if I go to 4000, yeah, we get that back. But down here, we're not logging this main socket connection. We're not actually connecting to it yet. Why is that? Well, I said that we need to set up socket.io on the server, which we have done now, and on the front end. So let's set it on the front end first of all, then it's going to make that connection when we request that index file. Okay, so let's go into the index file first of all, and what we need to do is load in the socket.io library onto the front end. So if you go to the socket.io website, then you're going to see in the top right corner this is download version, download button right here, and we want the top one, so I'm just going to copy that, and we can paste it inside our index.html file right here. So I'm going to do that just before the start sheet. So I'll say script source is equal to what we just copied. I'll paste that in there, and then we have a reference to this now in this file. Now, we also want to create our own JavaScript file where we're going to run all this kind of custom socket.io code. So I'm going to make reference to another external file which I'll create in a minute, and this is just going to be called chat.js. So we'll say script source equals /chat.js, and we need to store this in the public folder, so I'm just going to save this and create this file. So new file chat.js, okay? So now inside this file, when we get this index.html file served to us in the browser, it's going to load in this library, then it's going to run this file down here at the bottom. So in this file, we want to establish that connection to the server to create this WebSocket between the two. Alright, so let's say right here, make connection. So how do we connect? Well, because we loaded in the library right here, we have access to the IO variable, right? So I can say var, create one called socket, and this is the socket for the front end. It's not to do with the socket here, they're two different variables. This one right here is running on the server, this one is running on the front end, okay? So we have two different variables called socket, that's fine. So we're setting that equal to IO, we have access to this because we've loaded in the library on the front end, IO, and to make a connection we say dot connect. And we're going to say where we want to make this WebSocket connection to. So we want to go to the local host, so say http /localhost, and it's port 4000 that we're listed to on the server, so we can pass in that. And then now when we load up this index.html file in the browser, we're going to run this file and we're going to make that connection, right? So when we make that connection, in the index file, we're listing out for that connection right here, then we're going to log this message. Make sense? So now, let us run this. Are we running it? Let's check. We need to say, oh no, we don't. We're running it already. Cool. So let's refresh this page over here. When we refresh it, is this going to work? Let's have a look. Well now, if we open up this, it says made socket connection. So we have made that WebSocket connection, and now there's a socket running between the client, the browser, and the server, because that has data between the two of them. Pretty awesome, right? So just quickly to run through it again. We have created our express application. We created a server and stored it in this variable. Then we required socket.io to work with WebSocket. Down here, we've created a new variable called IO, and we've set it equal to socket, which is what we required, and we're invoking that function and passing through this server we created. Okay? So now that's setting the socket on the server side. Then we're listing out for connection by saying IO.on connection, and when that connection is detected, when it's made, then we're firing back this callback function, which is taking through this socket. It's got information about that socket. We can do stuff with it later, and it's logging this message. All right. So we're making this connection right here from the front end by loading in the library to the index file right here. Okay. Then in this file we're running at the bottom, we're making that connection by saying socket is equal to IO. If we use this because of the library connect to this thing right here, localhost 4000. So when we load this index file in the browser, it's making that connection. We're listening to that connection right here and logging this message. Okay. So let's just do one more thing. I'm going to show you this thing right here, the socket in the browser. It's making that connection. This because of the library connection right here and logging this message. Okay. So let's just do one more thing. I'm going to show you this thing right here, the socket. So I'm just going to actually log this to the console as well. So I'll put a comma right there and then say we'll log the socket. And what we're going to do is log the ID. It's going to pop called ID. If I just log the socket, it's going to load the jump, tons of properties. We're not interested in most of it, but I'll log the socket ID. So if I say this now, what we can do is if you in the browser again, and if I refresh, then open up this console right here, we can now see this is socket connection, right? So it's a unique ID. If I refresh again, I'm going to get a different socket connection. So every time we refresh, I have to have a different computer to connect. For example, if I paste this in a new browser, imagine this is a new computer somewhere else in the world, when they connect, they're going to get their own unique socket ID, their own unique socket between the client and the server. Okay? So now we're all ready. We've connected, we've made this WebSocket connection, and we're ready to start transferring data, and we're going to do that in the very next tutorial by starting to create this chat application. Refresh, I have to have a different computer to next. For example, if I paste this in a new browser, imagine this is a new computer somewhere else in the world, when they connect, they're going to get their own unique.
I was like, where did that socket.id come from? But so every time he makes a new tab, you get a new socket ID. Cute. That makes sense. Okay, because I was like, wait a second. How come I'm not understanding why there's so many different socket IDs when he only
socket
established
ID that only
one?
unique socket between the client and the server. Okay, so now we're all ready. We've connected. We've made this WebSocket connection, and we're ready to start transferring data. And we're going to do that in a very next tutorial by starting to create this chat application.
Because yeah, so I also pulled up socket.io docs too as well. As you know, docs are well written, and docs are written for you to assist you and help you as well. So yeah, so talking a little bit about how it works. So it is a bi-directional channel between the server and the client. So a socket.io helps serves Node.js with, whenever possible, it will use HTTP long polling as fallback. So the socket.io code base is split into two distinct layers. The low-level plumbing, which we call engine.io, the engine inside socket.io. The high-level API, socket.io itself. Engine.io is responsible for establishing the low-level connection between server and client. So essentially, socket.io does two things, one on a high-level basis and one on a low-level basis. I see. The low-level plumbing, that's me thinking like, the way I picture this is socket.io is essentially it's essentially like your wires. I think about like how I used to work at a place that their how would you call it, the origin of the business lived internationally, and in order for us to connect to their databases, there are wires, my understanding, and I'm pretty sure that there are wires connected in the ocean so that you can connect internationally. Pretty sure. Wires in the ocean to connect internationally. Correct. Internationally. Correct. Yes. So there are wires in the ocean, so that's what I think about when I think about like low level. I think that's what it's doing. It's helping branch the connection, and the high level itself is making that connection from the computers and being like, hey, let's talk to each other. That's what I'm kind of thinking right now. Feel free to let me know if my analogy is off, but this is what I'm definitely thinking about right now. A low level versus a high level like that. So there are two currently transported WebSockets and long polling. Also refers polling consists of successful HTTP requests. You can have long form for receiving, short running requests for sending. Due to the nature of the transport, successful emits may be concatenated. The WebSocket transport consists of a socket connection. So if you're gonna do this, the way I think about it, it's probably better to do a WebSocket instead of a HTTP long polling. Due to the nature of the transport, each emit is sent in its own WebSocket frame. Some emits may even result in two distinct WebSocket frames. So at the beginning of the engine.io connection, when you go ahead and branch those two together, there's a handshake that occurs, saying, hey, this is what's going to happen. It is the ID. Here is the ID, the upgrades, ping interval, ping timeout are in the heartbeat mechanism. That is interesting with the heartbeat mechanism. A max payload indicates a max amount of number of bytes it can accept. Upgrade mechanism. By default, the client establishes the connection. But why? The client establishes the connection with the HTTP by default. So by default it does the HTTP long polling transport. While WebSocket is clearly the best way to establish a bidirectional communication, experience has shown that it is not always possible to establish a WebSocket connection due to corporate proxies, personal firewall. So a lot of things are all like very, so a lot of technologies are very geared up, and it won't accept. That's the way I understand it. Because from the user perspective, an unsuccessful WebSocket connection can translate up to 10 seconds of waiting. Because that will hurt the loading time, and nobody wants to wait around. I see. Reliability and user experience first, marginal potential UX. So engine.ai focus on reliability and user performance first. To upgrade, the client will ensure its outgoing buffer is empty. Put the current transport in read-only mode. Try to establish a connection with the other transport. And then that way, so you gotta make sure everything's clean before you go ahead and make out a request. Or before you perform a handshake, and then you'll send the data, you receive the data, then you can go ahead and send data, receive the data, because post is to receive, right? Post is for receive, and then you can send data. So here we are, and then we're gonna go ahead and send data, then we're gonna get that data, and then we're gonna upgrade. Is that, oh, yes. As you can see, we upgrade here with a WebSocket, and then we receive that data. Then disconnection detection. So it can disconnect. Provide some actual additional features, automatic reconnection. Oh, it can do that for you. So if anything should die or not work, then it will go ahead and automatically go ahead and reconnect for you. Broadcast to all clients. That's so interesting. Okay, wait, I'll be right back. Go take a quick little break. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So we're gonna listen some more. Ready for...
Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to your fourth WebSockets tutorial, and in this video we're finally going to start creating the chat application and start emitting messages using Socket.io. Okay, so where are we so far? Well, in the last tutorial we set up Socket.io on the front end. We also set it up on the server as well, so we've got it set up on both sides now. And when we're in a client browser and we request the index page from the server, it sends to us, then we set up this WebSocket connection between the two. So now we can start transferring data between the two different things, the server and the client. So we're in a position now where we can start fleshing out the chat application here, and then entering some information, some different chats into this application, sending that data through the WebSocket to the server will receive it, then it will emit data down every other WebSocket that it's connected to all these different clients around here. So it'll send it back down to the front end where we can handle it and then display it in the chat to everyone viewing the chat room. So let's start fleshing out this chat room then. The first thing I want to do is get rid of this jump, this H1, and instead we'll create a div with an ID of Mario Chat. Okay, cool. So this is going to encompass the whole thing. Then we want a div with an ID of chat-window. This is going to be the window where everything's displayed. And then also we want another div inside this with an ID equal to output. And this div right here is where the data is going to get displayed. So when in one client we send a message, the server receives that, then it emits that message to the rest of the clients. So the front end then will handle that, receive that message, and output the messages here. Okay, so it's going to be inside this div. Okay, so now underneath the chat window, what do we want to do? Well, we need two input fields. One for their name or their handle, and one for the message they want to send. So the first one, input, ID equals handle. And then this is going to be of type equal to text. Okay, we also want a placeholder, and that's going to be equal to handle. Okay, cool, so now we've got an input for that. We also want an input field for our message. So let's do another. Input with an ID this time equal to message, and then a type equal to text. And then we also want a placeholder for this one as well. So we'll say placeholder is equal to message. Cool, so now we've got our two input fields as well. Finally, we just want a send button to click when we want to send this message. So we'll do a button with an ID equal to send, like so, and then we'll give that a text of send as well. Cool, so now we've created this HTML. Now what we want to do is start editing the JavaScript, the chat.js, which also lives on the front end, which is going to help us interact with this. So when someone enters in a message and clicks send, what we're then going to do is emit a message down the WebSocket from this JavaScript file, which can be received on the server. Now before we do that, let's just take a look at what this looks like in a browser so far. So I'll refresh over here, and now we can see that chat room, and it looks like this because of the styles we've already pasted in there. So nothing special at the minute, because if we type something in here and here, click send, nothing is actually happening, okay? So let's add in that functionality to start emitting that message from the client to the server. So then the first thing I want to do is start querying the DOM and storing some variables, so references to different things in here. I want to get a hold of this, the handle, the message, and also the send button right there. And also, to be honest, this output, because that's where we're going to output the messages. So I want to handle into all of these different things, because we're going to interact with each of those four components. So we'll create variables for each one of those. So I'm going to create a little comment which says query DOM. We're going to do all that stuff down here. And I'm just going to paste this in from my GitHub repository rather than type them out by hand. But we're creating four variables: message, handle, button, and output. And each of these is equal to document.getElementById, and we're passing in an ID of each of these four elements on the page. So if we go to the index, we can see we've got handle, message, send, and output. So they're the four things we're getting: message, handle, send, and output. And we're storing those elements now in variables. So now we can use them to kind of interact with them. Now, the first thing we want to do is emit an event when someone clicks send. So let's do another comment saying emit events, and then underneath this we'll get the button variable. Oops, all this is weird capitals. So emit events, and then we need the button element, and we want to say add event listener. So I'll say add event listener. So this is vanilla JavaScript for listening for particular events. Now we want to listen for a click event. So when someone clicks this send button, we want to do something. So in parenthesis, we're listening for the click event, and then when someone's clicked it, we need to fire back a callback function. Okay? So all this applies to vanilla JavaScript. So inside this callback function, what do we want to do? Well, we want to emit an event, or we want to emit a message so that we can receive it on the client. We want to send it down the WebSocket. And the way we can do that is by saying socket, and that's this thing up here. We created that socket when we said io.connect. So we can get that socket now, and we can say .emit. And this is going to emit a message down the WebSocket to the server. Alright? So this emit function takes two parameters, and the first one is going to be the name of the message. What do we want to call this? Well, it's going to be a chat message, so let's call it chat. And the second parameter is going to be what the actual message is, or the data that we're sending to the server. Okay? So this is going to be an object that we're sending to the server. So curly braces. And inside this object, we're going to have two parameters. First of all, message. Secondly, the handle. So the message is going to be this thing up here, message.value. And that's going to get the value of this input field, this message field, right? And the second thing we want to send is the handle. So we'll say handle is handle. That's this variable right here, .value. So .value, and that's going to grab whatever's in the handle box, right? And then what we're doing is emitting this chat message. So that's going to go to the server down the WebSocket and send this data to the server, right? So, I mean, if we do this at the minute, then nothing much is going to happen, right? Yeah, it's sending the data, but then when we get to the server, it's not actually doing anything with the data. So what we need to do now is handle this message on the server. So let's go to our server-side code, this index.js file, and let's handle this. So inside this function, this callback function, remember, we call this function right here when a connection is established, right? So inside this function, what we can do now is listen for that message being sent to us from the client, that chat message. And the way we can do that is by saying socket.on. Okay, so this socket refers to that particular socket between the server and the client that's sending the message. So socket.on. And then on the chat message, that's listening out for that chat message coming into the server. Then what we want to do is fire a function. And we receive the data that we send. So the data was this thing right here, this object, right? So we're sending this from the client, then on the server, we're listening to this socket, and when we receive that chat message, we're going to fire a callback function and take in that data object that we send. Okay? So let's just think for a minute, what do we want to do? When we receive it from the client to the server, what do we then want to do with this message? Well, we want to send it out to all of the different clients connected to the server on a WebSocket, so that everyone viewing the chat room can see that message, right? So the way we can do that is by saying io.sockets, and this is going to refer to all of the sockets that are connected to the server. So say there's 5 different browsers viewing the chat room, all of those have their own individual socket. This sockets collection right here is referring to all of those different sockets, right? And then what we're going to do is emit a message to each one of those. So we'll say .emit again. And again, we need to say what type of message we're sending back to the client. This is going to be a chat message again. And then we're going to send the data we received from the first client that sent the message, and we're going to send that back to all the different clients, okay? So we can send that back here as a second parameter. So now, what we're doing is from the client, we're inputting some data here, clicking send, that's emitting a message along this socket between this client and server, it's sending that chat message, this data right here, the server then receives that, it's listening out on that socket for a chat message, when it gets that chat message, it's emitting this function, sorry, it's firing this function, and we're receiving the data that was sent, then what we're doing is we're saying we're getting all sockets, and we're emitting an event or a message down all sockets, that is the chat message, and we're going to send the data back to all sockets. So now what we can do is in the front end, when we receive this one, we can handle it and output it to the screen, okay? So how do we...
So essentially, the front end is going to go ahead and, so the way I perceive what he's stating right now is that the front end will go ahead and emit, the front end will go, this is not the front, but chat. So the front end is going to go ahead and write down, so we're going to go ahead and capture the message in the handle value. Then the socket's going to listen for information from the chat, and then it will go ahead and send it out to the specific sockets.
Use that, it's listening out on that socket for a chat message. When it gets that chat message, it's emitting this function, sorry, it's firing this function, and we're receiving the data that was sent. Then what we're doing is we're saying we're getting all sockets, and we're emitting an event or a message down all sockets. That is the thing. Come down here to do is define it right here. Socket.on. And we're listening for the chat event from the server, or the chat message. Then we can fire back a callback function on the client side with the data, and inside here we can do something with the data, like output it to the DOM. So I can say now, output, that's this variable right here, which refers to that output div in the HTML. So I can get that, and I can say .inner HTML to assign some different HTML to that div. So we're going to say plus equals, so whatever it is currently, I want you to add this to the HTML, right? So this is going to be a string. We're going to output a p tag, not capitals, and then a strong tag. And then what we're going to do is tack on some of the data. So data, and that's this thing we received right here from the server, dot, and we had a handle property, which is here, remember? So we're going to output the handle first of all, which is their name. Then we're going to tack on, again, a string, colon, and then strong, we're going to close that strong tag off. Then what we're going to do is output the actual message. So again, we can say plus to add on some more data. We're going to add on data.message, and then plus again, this string, and it's going to close the p tag, okay? So now, when we refresh over here, if we add in a name, let's say, I don't know, Ninja, whatever, and a message, yo, if we click send, let's just quickly go through the steps again. When we click send, this event listener is listening for that click. It's saying, okay, grab the socket between this client, your client, the browser, and emit a chat message, okay, and send it to the server. I want you to send this data along with that message. So the server is saying, okay, well, I'm listening to all my sockets. When I hear that chat message sent to me, I'm going to fire this callback function. And I'm going to receive that data and pass it to this function. So then what it does is say, okay, I'll grab all of my sockets to whichever client is connected to me and emit that chat message. And I'm going to send back the data I receive to all of the different clients. Then, in the front end, in the different clients, we want to then output it to this chat window. So we say, okay, well, in the front end, I'm going to say socket.on chat. So we're listening for that chat message coming back from the server. We're going to fire this callback function, which is taking the data that comes with it, and we're going to output this data to the inner HTML of the output div in the DOM, okay? And we'll output the handle and the message. So let's give this a whirl and cross our fingers, click send. Now we get this in the chat window, and if I add this to a different tab, Then let's try again. Let's go over here and say, this time, I don't know, Peach. And we'll say, woo! If I click send, then it shows here and also here. Cool. So now we've got our basic chat functionality working by passing data from the client to the server and back from the server to all different clients. Okay? So in the next tutorial, we're going to take this one step further and add on that little Peach is writing a message thing.
That was pretty cool to see that it can handle and transfer information back to each other like that within the same sockets. So yeah, so I hope you got the chance and opportunity to go ahead and learn a little bit today. Let's go ahead and make a socket we'll make a socket.io project tomorrow. I did notice I'm streaming for a little longer than I anticipated.